Alright hackers, a bit's changed already with Wyrm, most notably how you build and stage implants. We now use profiles to build implant binaries instead of using the tedious builder form, which would get tiresome very quickly. As I work towards the official release of version 1, profile options will expand and allow you better control of the binary that gets built. Currently it only accepts a single listener and implant configuration, but this will change soon. I've opted to use the TOML format for the profile. It's clean, simple, and easy to use. Okay, so here we are in a default.toml, and we're going to go and define the profile for this agent. So first of all, we can define a top level sleep duration in seconds. So if we add sleep 20, this is going to tell the build process to make the agent sleep by default for 20 seconds if a further subsequent sleep duration isn't specified in the listeners portion of the TOML, which we'll get to shortly. So next we can add in an optional user agent key. This will specify the user agent for the implant to use when communicating with a Wyrm C2. Okay, so now we get onto the server settings. So this is denoted by server, and the first thing we have to do is specify the URI that the server will accept. So this is mandatory, and it takes an array of URIs for which you wish your agent to check into. In the current build, the implant only contacts the first URI, and it's not built with the remaining. This will be changing soon, so be sure to keep an eye out on the release notes. The Wyrm C2 uses tokens to authenticate requests from implants with the server. A token within the server key is mandatory at this level, and this is to be a base token for your implants, as they need this to talk to the C2. You can specify a subtoken in a listener configuration, which the implant will use instead of this one, but this kind of is like a generic catch-all if you don't specify individual tokens per listener. So we'll add token, and we'll just call it my token. So next up, we need to configure the listeners. For this, we use the listener or listeners key. Now we're going to add a new listener, and we're going to call it default. So every listener that we create has to have a name, and this name comes after the full stop. Currently the C2 only accepts one listener and one implant build, but this will change soon. So the first thing that we have to do that's mandatory is define the protocol. And this is going to be HTTP. And currently this accepts HTTP, HTTPS and SMB. SMB implants are not yet implemented. Next is the address of your C2 or redirector, be it an IP address or a domain name. And next up, that is required, is the port. And if we want to specify a particular token for this listener to use, we can do so here. And again, we can override the sleep that we defined up here if we want to, specific for this listener. So we'll go and make the sleep 5 seconds by default. We can of course change the sleep at runtime for that particular agent, but any time this binary runs that's configured for this listener, it will always sleep for 5 seconds. Next up is the implant section, and we define this with the key implants. And again, just like the listeners, we have to define a name for the implants. If we wish to build this in debug mode, we simply add the key debug, and we set that to true. If we don't want to build in debug mode, which I would not recommend you do on a real red team engagement, simply delete this or set this to false. We'll leave it on true for now. So next we have the anti-sandbox options. So to define these, we simply do implants.default because that's the name of the profile that we want to add this for, and we add the key anti-sandbox. And as per the previous video, there are currently 2 anti-sandbox functions implemented, the first being a RAM check. which simply checks if the machine has at least 6 GB of RAM. And the second is a trig test, which measures the movements of the mouse, looking to see whether it's human-like behaviour. If you want none of these, you can simply delete the section. If you want only one of them, you can delete the option, or you can set it to false. So what we've got here is a default pull of the C2 from GitHub. So the first thing that we want to do is edit the configuration TOML. So all of this is fine, but the most important thing that we want to edit here is the address that the agent that gets built is going to talk back to. So we're going to paste in the IP address of this host. We have the port of 8080, a unique token for the implant, a sleep second of 5. We are not building in debug mode, so we're going to be building in release mode, and we do want to set events tracing for Windows patching to true. So that's going to patch out the events tracing for Windows callback, so that shouldn't happen from user mode. And we also do some basic anti-sandbox checks with the RAM check and the trig check. So let's go and save that. And we don't need to restart the C2, it is running, and we have the client running here as well. So the first thing that we do, I'm just going to clean these out from before. So the first thing we can do is we can build with the stage orphan profile, and we'll just enter the profile name, which is default, and we can select a folder where it's going to build to, so we can select that out directory, click open, and hit build. It is going to show an error again. This is just a bug. If we go and check that out folder, we do now have the XE, which is 1.5 meg. I think it's rounded up ever so slightly there. Okay, so now that's done, we want to go and stage the payload on the C2. So we'll hit stage from disk, and we'll call this please subscribe.exe, and shamelessly we'll stage this also on please sub. So we'll go and select a file to upload, and we'll go into the out directory where we've just built, and we'll select the default.default.exe. So we'll hit upload, and we refresh, and that is done. So in the browser, if we navigate to please sub, and we hit enter, that's going to allow us to download that executable now. So we'll say keep. Thank you, Defender, for saying, hey, this could be malicious. So Defender is turned on, but we have automatic sample submission turned off. So it may prompt us, hey, do you want to send this file to Microsoft? No, we don't, thank you. So let's go and run it and see what happens. Okay, so it's launched with no questions asked. That's fine. And we'll just give the mouse a little wiggle. Defender might be scrutinizing it as we talk, which is why we're not getting much. And there we go. So the implant's checked in. And as an example, so we set the sleep time to 5, if you recall, in the profile. So you can see here it checking in every 5 seconds. We can change that with set sleep 1. And maybe run PS to see the processes. And there you can see that's changed to every second. So we'll pull the notifications, and these are all of the processes that are running at the moment on this machine. And you can see here, please subscribe .exe is running. So that's really how we build the agents now with the profile. Hopefully that helps to see it in action. In the next video, what we will do is we'll look at weaponizing this and how we can turn this into maybe a bit of a fish, something like that. And I'll catch you then. Thanks.